Hey, hello, my name is Cezars. I'm from Mexico. Now I'm living in Latvia and I'm going to tell you my story.
Hello, Cezar.
Hey, hello, Mara.
How are you today?
Fine, wonderful, thank you. How
Yeah,
are you?
thank you for joining us. I'm doing great. It's a little bit warmer this week, so I'm very happy about that.
Me too. I don't want it's cold again. Still
Hmm.
too soon.
Yeah, it feels like it's going towards autumn. Well, thank you for coming and telling us your story today. And why don't you start by telling us a little bit about the place that you are from?
Of course, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. And to start, I will say I'm from Mexico City. I born in Mexico City. And as many people know or may know, it's one of the biggest cities in the world. It's now, I think, around 20 something million people there in the city. So it's a crowd place. But in my childhood, for me, it was normal. Of course, it wasn't 25 million then, but it was still very, very normal. My father-in-law said that I'm a generation concrete because I grew up in the asphalt.
Hmm.
I discovered moving here to Latvia that I don't know anything about nature, anything about animals, anything about mushrooms or about a lot of natural things. And it's because our childhood was very urban, and it's really when I start to think about my childhood and how we spend our days in that time, that we will be playing in the parking lots, for example, or in abandoned garages, or playing football behind the metro station in an empty slot or something like this. So all these images that I have from my childhood, maybe it looks like a Scorsese movie, no? It's
Mm.
like just kids running around the buildings and
Hmm.
running away from cars and this kind of things, no? And the place where I grew up, where is my family home in Mexico City, it's in a, let's say, a small oasis, because it was very calm place, very, very quiet place, but also very close to the city center and kind of close to the airport and kind of close to a highway, so no, freeway. So it's very noisy around, very, very fast moving everything around. But there, where we grew up, where is this house? It was very calm still in the time of my childhood. Uh, we could go walking to the school, to the elementary school, to the high school, together with my mom or my grandpa, and go play out. As I was telling, it's not going to the garden or to the yard, but going to some lot, empty lot, to play baseball or football or something. Absolutely, baseball, something that is very unknown for people here
Hmm.
in Europe. But baseball was a very important part of my life in a young age, because my grandfather, he was a lover of the sport. He was following the Yankees, I think, since the 1950s. So he had all these memories from the great Yankees, the baseball players, and he liked to watch the games. And I enjoy very much to watch the games with him, and going to the baseball park on Saturdays to watch the amateur teams playing at that time. During my childhood, he was already not so healthy anymore, so we couldn't go to professional games because the stadium was further for him. But we will go to the local the neighbor stadium to see the amateur teams and play, and I play myself a little bit later in school. But yeah, I think this is something a lot of people found strange about me. One of the many things that I'm a Mexican that does not play football, but play baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know almost anything about football, but my sport for a very long time was baseball, and is as well a very nice memory of my childhood. No, that still sometimes, especially in the autumn, when I now see from the garden that the sun is coming down and it's the sunset, and I still have in the back of my brain these memories of playing late in the evening until the sunset, and shared with my friends and my grandpa at that time. It's still is a very special place in my mind and in my heart.
Yeah, I can hear how sweet of a memory it is of both the physical place, like where you played and the images that you have, but also of your family and of it being also part of your relationships at the
Yeah,
time. Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, that's really wonderful. Any other notes about Mexico City that you want to share?
Yeah, another thing that it's very, let's say, it was very normal for us, but later when my wife started to live in Mexico, we discovered that wasn't kind of strange. Was the distances,
Mm,
and this because the distances are very uh, philosophical concept in Mexico City. No, it's not a real measure, but more philosophical uh, quantity. Because we will say, for example, uh, we are going out for breakfast. It's a very close place. It's just 2 hours driving,
mm.
and it's still inside the city, no? And and still, especially my mom, my aunt, they are still having this custom of call certain places like going outside of Mexico, because in their childhood those places were outside of the city, but
Mm.
now are part of the city. So for to me, they are like another neighborhood in the city, but for them, uh, they are still saying we are going out of the city, but actually we are going just to the other side of the city. So it's always very relative, this concept of time and distance in Mexico City. It's a very surreal place indeed.
That's really interesting. It makes me think of when I lived in New York City. New Yorkers, when they say the city, it only means Manhattan. So when people live in the other parts of New York City, they say, this is the city, and I live
Yeah.
in Brooklyn or I live in the Bronx. And it's different from if you said this to someone else out from not from New York. They also say that anything outside of New York is upstate, even if it's just over the border. So
Yeah.
there are some interesting things about how cities kind of create their own language and sense of space. Space and
Yeah.
time is different. Yeah.
and
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 Mm-hmm.
Sorry, no, and I wanted to say, especially for Mexico and for Mexicans, that we are from Mexico City, because Mexico literally means center of the world.
Mm.
So it's very subjective, this meaning, because if you translate from the Nahuatl, the Aztec language, will mean that is the center of the moon, or the middle part of the moon, but actually that means that is the center of the universe. So for us, we are taking it very literally. I know that everyone that it's coming from a big city is thinking that that place is the center of the universe for them, but for us, it's the name of the city. No, it's the center of the universe, and this in some way. I'm not going to tell that affects you, but it's something that you always have. And if with people from the big capitals always have this feeling, I wouldn't like to say against the people that are from the smaller cities or from the countryside, but in Mexico, I think it's still very, very much stronger than maybe in other places.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And you had told me that after you lived in Mexico City, that you ended up living somewhere else. So maybe you can describe a little bit of how it is different in different parts. So tell us a little bit about when you kind of first left the city and
Yeah,
what that was like.
yeah, of course. As I was telling before about my grandfather, he was a very important person in my growing up years, and he wasn't from Mexico City, but he was from Veracruz, that is port city. Let's say close to Mexico City. It's like 4 hours driving from Veracruz to Mexico, 4 or 5 hours driving. Uh, so our childhood vacations, we will go there. We had some family there, and was the connection to this place. And I remember the first time I have memory that we were driving to this to Veracruz. That Mexico City is surrounded by mountains. Is a valley. So the first time I have the memory that we were driving, and we drove past the valley and past the mountains, and start to see lights further from the city in the other direction. I was thinking, and I was asking my mom if that was the United States, because for me in that age, I don't know, I was like 5 or something. My whole world was the city, and going further there, it's like another world, no, and the other the any other world that I knew from movies and TV was the United States. So my association was, there is the other place. So there is just Mexico and the United States. It's nothing in the middle. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
and was a kind of mm, small shock to the young me to discover that the world is way bigger than you think, no, from the beginning. So we had this relationship with this place, with this Veracruz place, and eventually when I was about to start the high school, uh, my grandfather always had this wish or this idea that maybe one of his kids or maybe one of the grandkids will go will join the Navy and go to the Navy school that is a very prestige military academy in Mexico still nowadays. They have a very good engineering careers. So it's a very good level, educational, and beside the military discipline and everything. And because I was having so very nice grades, so I was in a position to choose where I would like to go to study. And I decided, okay, I'm going to make the exams for the school just to please my grandfather. But at the end, I'm going to go to the other school that I wanted originally to go in Mexico City. And then I'm not going to pass the test for the Navy, because I was never very sportist person. And I said, I'm sure I'm not going to pass the exams. I'm not Navy material. No, I'm not military material. And so I made the exams, and I got a very nice surprise after a few weeks. And so I joined the Navy when I was 15 years old. And I ended living in Veracruz in the Navy school for 5 years.
So it began as a school. It wasn't just joining the military. It was kind of your furthering education.
Yeah, it's it's still a little bit strange, the way how the school works, because prior to my generation, in the school, the Navy school was at university level. So you could just enter if you already had the high school finished, and you will join the Navy and doing your bachelor there. But for my luck, it was changed the year before. So they had a high school system included now. So you could join in high school, make the high school in the Navy, and you will join at this age and participate in several things, maybe not everything that the Navy is doing, of course, but participating in a lot of things. And was a little bit of also the shock with the age differences between the senior cadets and us, because they were guys already in their 20-something years, and we were 15, 16 years old. So it was a very interesting time in my life. But it was also a time in which they were coming movies like Top Gun, and everyone is feeling like Tom Cruise in the white uniform and said, yeah, I'm going to do it. It's going to be cool. And yeah, it's interesting. It's an experience to be there.
And you were also starting to say that Veracruz in itself is different than the city.
Yeah.
Can you describe it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Veracruz is maybe, I don't have the fact for sure, but it's maybe the oldest established city in America, in the whole continent. It was established by Cortés in 1519, 1520, I think, and it had the first municipality organized in America, in the continent. So they have this. They have a very high esteem of pride about this, and because it was for several years the entrance port to Mexico, it had a lot of influences still not just from Spain, that is the main influence, but also from France, that we were part of the French Empire during the moment in our history. We had the influence also of the black slaves, that at some point we had slavery as well in Mexico. And also the influence of all the Caribbean culture, that by itself it's a different culture from the mainland culture from another indigenous people. So Veracruz is having a very particular character. I think maybe the places that could be similar to what Veracruz is of course Puerto Rico. It's having a very similar background, and Havana. That's maybe Cartagena in Colombia is more or less as well the same, but it's very, very particular kind of culture that at the time, so this is early 90s, still was very local, still was not getting too many influences from other parts of the country or other parts of the world. It was they were doing their own stuff, their own music, they have their own poets, they have their own literature, they have, of course it's the same language, but it's almost as if they have their own culture, the small island of culture, and they were very proud about this cultural level that they have. And also they have a way of thinking life different than what we had in the city, in Mexico City. Maybe it's what everybody is thinking about living in the Caribbean, no, in the living slow, and it's no hurries, no worries, and this kind of relaxed, chill ambience. And for me at that time, as a teenager, it was a different world, a totally different world, because in spite my childhood was, let's say, very safe, because we could still go and run around everywhere. Still growing up in a city, you are all the time living, looking over your shoulder, no? But then growing up there in a place like Veracruz, where everyone is chill and relaxed, and it's like you are traveling back in time to maybe another time where things were even easier and slower than the time that you are living. And also is very, or it was very openly active for young people just to be around and going places. Is not, for example, that drinking, for example, is very socially, or it was very socially accepted. Not to get drunk, of course, but to have a beer or something, because it's so hot, the weather living there, that it's very common to get a beer in the afternoon because of the weather, no? So it wasn't very, very rare to see that if you are a teenager, 16, 17 years, you were allowed to drink, while in other places maybe it wouldn't be, not forbidden, but not socially accepted. So it was like my first cultural shock in my life, and it was for maybe a couple of years that took to me to fully understand and adapt to live in this kind of society that for some on one hand was very permissive in certain things, but on the other hand it was very traditional in others, no? And go to church, for example, every Sunday, or the structure of the family. Everyone is having their hierarchy within the family, and if you are, because it was common for all of us as cadets, you are adopted by some family. You're not sponsored like maybe in other schools, but actually adopted to have somewhere where to go when you have free days, or some adult that maybe is looking after you in the school, that is not necessarily your parent or your relative, because not everyone is having these relatives in Veracruz. And being the school for the Navy, they are getting people from the whole country, and even people from other countries. So it was very common to have a family adopting you at this moment. But so you are having an adult life on the one hand, but on the other hand, very structured, old-fashioned. This is your place in the family, kind of. On the other hand, no, living. So it took for me a while to adapt and understand how to balance these two lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a great segue to living abroad. But before we talk about living abroad, tell us a little bit more about your travels.
Yeah. Well, being in the Navy, I started to travel very young age. Our first travels was just around the Mexican coast. So I think I traveled the Gulf when I was 17, and I traveled the Pacific when I was 18, 19 years old. The whole coastline of Mexico in both sides. And afterwards, I had my first international travel experience that was in the tall ship Cuauhtemoc. That it's another very interesting experience, sail in a sail ship, and travel not only abroad, but in this kind of ship, not that you may seen only in pirate movies or this kind of movies. And I remember, I think my first thought when we were in Canada, and we were in Halifax, that we started to get visitors on board the ship, and every one of us had to take some visitor and make a tour around the ship. And my first thought about foreign people was, I thought Canadians will be taller. Because you are always thinking, not especially as Mexican, not that you are like very short race of people and all the foreigners are like very tall, and then meeting the Canadians, maybe they were just not very tall Canadians, but that was my first thought. No, they are this normal height here in Canada. No?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. These ideas that we have about other places.
Yeah.
That you just don't know until you experience what it is. Yeah. And so that was some travel abroad. How did you actually end up living abroad?
Well, thanks to, let's say, on one part is the language skill, and on the other part is maybe luck, or maybe it's because of my character, or I don't know. I was chosen several times to take courses abroad, to and after going back to Mexico and give those courses to more people. So for a time I was doing that, like maybe for 5 years. I was having my regular job in the Navy, but I was also being sent to different places to take those courses and give those courses, because I think it was cheaper send one or two guys abroad to learn something, and then they are coming back and teaching 50 or 100 or something. So I learned a lot of very weird things, like I don't know how to bomb disposal, for example, or handle a crime scene, some forensics stuff, and then a lot of things were related to my career as an engineer, but another things they were just because we need someone who speak English and have technical knowledge, and so we are sending you. So I at some point I was in the Air Force, in the American Air Force, learning to do
Top
certain. Yes, at the end I end up there. But the project never come to fruition at the end, so it finished only in the experience, but was very, very interesting. And well, in one of those trips I was in Canada again, and I met my wife studying in Canada, and so we started to develop a relationship. And because it was 21st century, we were having like Skype engagement, let's say. And at some point we decided that maybe she could go to Mexico to live with me and being married and have a life together. And so she did. And we were living in Mexico for some years. And after 2 or 3 years living together in Mexico, it was an opportunity for her to come here and get a job. And we make our decisions. We see the cons and pros. And at the end, I was doing my old life for long enough. I was looking for another things to do, and we decided that it was a good opportunity to come here and try something new. And if it didn't work, we could always go back to Mexico and try the something that we already know. No, it's sometimes this feeling that if you have a backup plan in case the main plan doesn't work, it's giving you an ease to decide and take risks. So knowing that we will have this backup already there in Mexico, make easier for us, or for me in this case, to take the risk to leave my previous life and start a new life here in Latvia.
And she had a connection to Latvia, so that made it easier
Yeah,
to
she's my wife
transition.
is Latvian. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about just the initial landing, both maybe a little bit logistically, like what did you need to do, as well as just that feeling of adjustment and anything that you did or you tried to, I don't even know the word, adjust in the very beginning.
It's maybe I don't know, maybe it's because my military background, or maybe because my personality, but I plan, or we plan very carefully the transition process. Okay, maybe I plan it more than her because she had family here. So, but for me it was starting from zero. So for example, a year previous moving, I started slowly to buying clothes, like to don't spend like because I knew it was a different weather, so I will need a different things. So don't buy everything in a rush, and better spread out during the year to make those purchases a little bit easier. Also, for example, I thought that I wouldn't get a job at the beginning, so I understood that the only thing that I could do uh, almost from day one as a job here in Latvia will be working in a restaurant or teaching Spanish. And so I decided to certify myself as a Spanish teacher, and I took a course about how to teach, and afterwards I got certified as a Spanish teacher, and that was correct because when we moved here, I found a job as a Spanish teacher almost immediately, and the fact that I was certified, it helped me a lot because a lot of guys that are coming here, they are teaching but they are not certified, so I could ask more money than them, and I could get better deals than them and more students than the other ones. So it was very good for me being organized. The same with our finances and everything. Have a funding for the first 6 months that we will be living here, and have a separate fund for looking for a rental and these kind of things. Another fund for the car, and all these kind of things makes make things a lot easier and less stressful, at least from my point of view. That just coming and try to find something on the first day. I know it's frustrating at the beginning because nobody is uh, sitting here waiting you with open arms, unless it's your family. So you need to look for yourself and try to find what to do, and but not only what to do, but what you would like to do. Because in my experience, I have seen a lot of people that is coming here without a plan, and they end doing things that they don't like or that they don't want to do, and so they have a very bad experience, and they or go back or go somewhere else, or they have let's say not they are not very happy about living here in Latvia. No, in my experience, I have had in the balance a very positive time living here, with ups and downs, of course, but it wasn't being for free. Is We had to look for opportunities, for chances, and learn how to maximize what for example, what the government is giving, what you can do for a living, what connections you can make, what networking you can do, and try to get to the point where you are doing what you want to do. Yeah.
And I'm curious with this transition. This is maybe a little bit of an interesting question here, but I'm curious, when you came here, were there things about your Mexican background that stood out to you when you were in a new place that maybe you didn't think about back home because it was just normal and it was just the way you lived, but aspects of yourself that you said, I feel very Mexican in this way, or
Yeah.
Mexicans do it this way. Yeah, any of those kind of thoughts come up?
I think that because I had the chance before coming here to live in other places, I had that already happened to me before.
Mm-hmm.
So coming here to Latvia, of course, there were a lot of things that were new and a lot of things that were uh, unusual to me as a Mexican. Uh, for example, one thing that is still very not I don't know unusual, but difficult to understand, the family connections here in Latvia. I know it's like almost a stereotype about the big, large Mexican families that are having these gatherings with the abuela and everyone around. But in my experience, we didn't have that. It is maybe because my family wasn't like that, or my friends in Mexico, their families wasn't like that. And coming here to Latvia, a lot of my Latvian friends or people I know, they are very family-oriented persons. I think we are more uh, friends-oriented. No, it's my friends are like my second family. Maybe because I had been living by myself or far from my family for so long
Mm-hmm.
that my second family was my friends, and living here and seeing people running to their families on the weekend or on Friday is still like why you are because it's something that we're not doing, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
we are okay, maybe we are doing it in very specific dates. I This is something I didn't expect. um, maybe because maybe because it's something that you don't really expect, because you maybe expect that the food is different or the weather is different, or uh, I don't know, that relationships between men and women are different. But these small things you don't expect them, and is maybe because of that that are more difficult to get in your mind or in your daily process. No.
Yeah, yeah. The unexpected things certainly stand out more. There are a couple of small things that I would have never, going into the process of moving and thinking about, okay, I will have to adjust to this.
Yeah.
The things that I showed up that happened that aren't even big things, like the way people walk down the street. It has become a big thing for me because it made me realize how differently I do
Yeah.
things, but it's never something that I would have expected. And so it stands out more than
You
maybe
know,
the things that I expected, like
one
weather.
thing, that now that you are mentioning it, it's a standout, and I have always this discussion uh, that it's going in the limits of an argument sometimes is about I don't know, courtesies and civility among people, no? Because for example, as you said, on the street, or on how the people behave on the street, or when uh, you are going through the door in a shopping mall, or someone, and the other people is not holding the door for you, and when you are holding the door for the people behind they are get like surprised. Why are you doing this? It's or the when our kid was smaller, the people is not smiling to the baby, like maybe in other places they are doing it, and or giving the seat to older people on the public transport, all these kind of things, no? And I remember once I was telling to some friends that I think it's very rude, that Latvians are very rude people because they are not following these courtesies. And they are saying no, that they are very polite because uh, they don't bother you. They just let you be. And I was without words, because it's this understanding what is not what is correct, what is desirable as a society. That because if I open the door for you, for example, I'm getting involved in doing something for you. We don't know each other, but I'm going out of my way to do something for you that I don't know how you are going to react to this. And for the Latvian was like, I'm not going to interfere with this person. Maybe they don't like that I open the door, or maybe they don't like that I give the chair to this because they feel undervalued or something, no? And it had happened, not that people is telling you that, not to me, but some other people that I have talked about this, and they said, yes, it happened to me that I opened the door to a woman on the shopping mall, and she's mad at me because if I think that she cannot open by herself the door, and then you are okay, but this suppose it was a courtesy, you shouldn't argue, you just say thank you. But for the other person, you are getting into their lives or into their way. So is and it's not correct answer. No, I learned that it's not a correct answer. Maybe the correct answer is what the majority is doing.
And yeah, so our cultures have these hidden rules or scripts that we follow. And both as North Americans, we definitely know if someone holds the door for you, that's a nice thing, and you respond or you
Yeah.
say thank you, or at least you acknowledge, you nod your head or something. So we know what the expectation is, and then we also know, like, if this person does this, I do this. If I do
Yeah.
this, this
It's
person does this. And
it's a social contract, no?
yeah, yeah. And you don't think about, again, how that script can be completely different in a different place.
Yeah.
So in Latvia, if you do this, you think from where you're from, okay, that the answer will be this or the reaction will be this. And they're seeing a completely different scene or a completely different expectation. And then it gets very confusing because you realize you don't know. You have to learn or try to predict what the reaction or what the expectation would be. And it does help for locals to say, this is how I perceive this, or this is how my script is written, because
Yeah.
it can be very confusing. And then you have to decide, okay,
Yeah.
I still hold doors for people sometimes here when they're very close to me. I don't want the door to slam in their face.
Yeah.
And frankly, I don't care if they get upset with me because it's just something that I don't mind keeping. But maybe other things, like I'm much quieter on the street than maybe I would be in the United States. And that's
Yeah.
fine to me. I
And
don't
you,
mind being more quiet.
you know something that now I remember that was not strange, just curious, uh, about more or less the same topic. If you ask a person like an American, or in my case a Mexican or another Latin American guy, how are you? You most of the time you're going to say, oh, fine, thanks. That I'm okay, thank you, or something in that lines, no. And if you ask to a Latvian, they are going to say normal. It's never good or bad. It's always normal, no. So what is normal? So and sometimes with my colleagues at job, we joke about this, that it's a shitty day, no. So it's normal like every other day. So what is normal? Is good or is bad? Is
Yeah, yeah. That's just you're right. Totally different cultural constructs around these things. So, if you were to summarize some of your takeaways from all of your travels, being in different places, what are some of the things that you think about in terms of being able to maybe relay to people watching this video how to adjust or how to transition to a new place, a new space?
I think the most important is to have an open mind, accept and understand that people is different. I don't like the word tolerance, because to me means that I need to stand that you are different and weird, or something, and it's not politically correct to me to tell otherwise. So instead of tolerance, I like better to accept or understand that people is going to be different, and you can like it or you cannot like it, but people is like they are, and they are not going to change, especially for you. Maybe they will do after a while, when they know you better, and there is a kind of relation or something. But you need to be aware that people is different, no? Even the small things may be different. And I think the most important thing, in my view, is to be prepared. It's very, very expensive and costly to not be prepared. I know it's maybe a younger person that is traveling abroad and would like the adventure and the unexpected, and is looking for that. It's very cool in paper, but in real life, when you are traveling and you need all your documents, and you need bank accounts, and you need to find a way how to subsist during the time you are traveling abroad, or where are you going to live, what are you going to do for a living. You need to make your research before. It's a very serious experience. It's very enjoyable to discover and have the chance to discover the world and travel. But if you want to enjoy it the most, you need to make your homework before put a foot on the plane.
Great advice. Any other stories you want to share?
I think that one thing I would like to tell is that traveling abroad and living abroad is a very good experience to reinvent yourself, know yourself, and be very honest with yourself in what are you doing, what were you doing before, and what you would like to do. And if you are honest with yourself and you have more or less clear what you would like to do, living abroad or living in another place, maybe not necessarily abroad, but living in another place, is going to give you maybe the chance to have this life that you are looking for. If, for example, you would like to work in the movies, but you don't, you are not an actor, you are not a screenwriter, and you don't have this education, maybe you can find a job within the industry. maybe you are a hairstylist or something, and maybe you can start working with people that work for a studio or for someone that is related to this industry, and you will see that if you have a work ethic and you know what you are doing, and you are more or less having two sense of common sense, is going to take you further than you imagine. And at some point, if you are close to the place you want to be, the opportunity to go closer is going to present. Or maybe you are going to be more ready to take the chances when the opportunity arises, if you are already close thereby. And this is something that maybe living abroad gives you this perspective, or this willingness to challenge yourself and start a second career maybe, or try something that maybe in your home place wouldn't even dream to try. I don't know, maybe you were an engineer and want to be a brewmaster, or you were a teacher and now want to be a carpenter, or something like this. No, you were an athlete, and now you want to learn about programming and computing. It's an opportunity to start over and make something new from these two lives, and grow yourself, do something for your family, do something for the place you are living, and I think it's going to pay well at the end.
Wonderful. Any final thoughts?
I think the thing that I'm thinking the last is about my kid, and the inheritance, cultural inheritance that he will have, because it's a very interesting experiment, and I'm sure that maybe the same for everyone, that it's marriage with parents of different nationalities, to see how this new person is taking small bits from each tradition or each culture, and this person is going to choose what he or her like the most, how he or her or she would like to be in the future. And I think it's a very, very nice and interesting experiment. So if you are here because of your other half is Latvian, I will tell that please enjoy the process, don't stress too much, and see and enjoy how your children is growing, because this is if having a kid is a wonderful experience, having a kid that is whose parents are from different countries, it's even greater. It's all the mix of cultures and traditions is giving him or her an edge, a background that not everyone is having, and is going to open for this baby a lot of doors in the future. Think about that, and give your kids the gift of knowledge and wisdom of all your cultures.
That's a really wonderful place to end it. Your whole story and then moving into the future. Thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate all of your time and all of your interesting insights and some new things that we haven't heard before.
Thank you for having me.
So thank you.
Thank you for having me. And I hope the people who watch this will find it interesting and useful.
Yeah, I'm sure.